got will, got fight, got pride, got reason. If you wanna go eat, then you know I'm gon' feed 'em. If you're coming for me, hope you're ready for a demon.
Hey, and welcome to another edition of Bros. Two brothers talking Notre Dame football and a little bit of basketball. Clutch, what's up?
And a little bit of women's volleyball.
A little bit of women's volleyball. Maybe the soccer team. The soccer team, national championship. Couldn't pull it off. They lost to Clemson. Yeah, you win some, you lose some.
No, but that's a field full of future NFL field goal kickers.
Oh, yes.
Speaking of which, he has now not missed a field goal this season.
Damn. Yeah, he's on my fantasy team, and he's doing really well. All right, big week for Notre Dame football. Big day for Notre Dame football. We're obviously recording this on Monday night, and the big news hit today. Turn this music down a little bit, and Gerald Parker, our offensive coordinator, is gone. According to The Athletic, he has been hired by Troy to take on the head coaching job there at Troy. I'm not sure. I mean, it's his first head coaching job, so why wouldn't you take it, right? I don't know. I mean, he's a young guy, so and a lot of us are good riddance, I think, because I think Marcus should have made this move at the end of the season. He should have. Firing was it Chauncey Stuckey, the receivers coach, was just, I don't know. I mean, maybe it was. Maybe there was a really bad receiver room, and it was very toxic. That's what the word was coming out of Notre Dame, that the receivers room was toxic, and it was Chauncey Stuckey that was the problem. And so Marcus Freeman chose to hang on to Gerald Parker, and didn't last long though, because got a job at Troy. So who is the next offensive coordinator for Notre Dame? Clutch, I know you're reading up on that as we're beginning this podcast. One of those is a very familiar name, Mike Denbrock, who's coached multiple times at Notre Dame over the course of 2 decades, 3 decades almost? 2 decades, I think. Yeah, starting with Willingham?
Yep, Willingham. I want to go back real quick. Just a little food nugget here with what's-his-face leaving. Does that tell you anything about the amount of money that Troy is offering him versus the offensive coordinator at a school like Notre Dame?
No, I thought about that as well. And actually, when I was just talking about it, and it can go 2 ways, I think. You look at it as, okay, maybe it's a pay upgrade. Maybe it is. I don't think it is. Maybe it is.
It shouldn't
be. It's a young guy looking for his first head coaching job, and I don't think there's a price. I mean, yes, there's a price. I'm sure he probably had an amount of money that he needs to make or whatever to be the head football coach at Troy. But I think it's his first head coaching job, and I think you take every opportunity you can get as far as a head coaching job comes, and it's a D1 school, so why wouldn't you?
What happened to Troy's head coach? Because they didn't have a bad season.
That's a good question.
They went 10-1. I think they lost to James Madison, number 24. James Madison out of the gate, beginning of the season.
Where's Troy at? These are the Sun Belt Conference, and they already have it. The current head coach is Gerald Parker, according to Wikipedia.
Wow.
That's not now. Again, no. Has anybody been to the Troy website? I don't know. Not me.
No, and it looks like they were number 18 last year, and they played UTSA, Texas San Antonio. The only game that they beat Southern Miss this year. They beat Arkansas State. They beat Army. I mean, they beat App State, Appalachian State. I mean, that's a big win. So that coach must have. I don't know where that Troy coach went, but he went somewhere, and then Parker filled it up. But anyways,
so who was the Troy football coach? Former Troy football coach? Do we know? I'm just going to look it up here.
We're racing.
I know.
Here we go. Bringing it up. There's
a bunch of them here.
John Sumrall. Sumrall? Sumrall ended his tenure at Troy when he announced on Friday, December 8th, that he had accepted the same role at Tulane. So he moved on to the head coach at Tulane. Finished as Troy's head coach at 23-4 overall record, 16-2 in the Sun Belt Conference, and 12-0 against the Sun Belt Western Division, 13-1 at home at Troy.
So it's just a coach moving on to maybe a bigger paycheck or just maybe a bigger program in Tulane. And then, Gerald Parker stepping in just to the fact that, like, look, man, you got a good program already that you're jumping into. Maybe it pushes him forward to another job, but he could completely implode like he did the Notre Dame football side of things on the offensive side of things.
I can't pronounce his last name. Gino Guide Ugly, quarterback coach for Notre Dame, will be the offensive coordinator for the bowl game.
Good. Okay. Well, and you know what? And what's to say that down the road that that Gino doesn't become the offensive coordinator? If Marcus Freeman's very comfortable in promoting. Shit. Well, he didn't want to promote Gerald Parker. He did not want to promote Gerald Parker. I don't think he did. So Notre Dame wasn't going to pay the money. They were not going to pay the money to maybe get the Utah offensive coordinator. I mean, they flew him in, they wined and dined him, and said, yeah, we don't have enough money for you. Bye. So will they do that again? Was that a lesson learned? I don't know. We'll see. This whole Denbach thing, Mike Denbach, I apologize, Denbrock, is currently the LSU offensive coordinator. He went down with, he didn't go down with Brian Kelly. Where was he coaching prior to LSU? Was he
Cincinnati with Freeman?
So he was. So there was he had taken some time off.
No, he was at Cincinnati from 2017 to 2021.
Okay, so he was offensive coordinator after Brian Kelly had left and after Marcus Freeman had left.
No, when was Freeman there?
Well,
Freeman was there in 21, wasn't he?
No, Freeman was our defensive coordinator. Remember, Freeman was, we had a year.
For 1 year, though.
Right. So what I'm saying is that there was a year in between where Denbrock stayed put with Cincinnati for a year, right? Is that correct?
2 years. Well,
2 years?
Freeman left in 21, I assume.
Correct. Yeah.
And so he was there. Yeah, he left. He left as soon as Kelly did. Kelly stole him from Cincinnati. Yeah, when he went down, because Kelly started in 2022, right?
Yeah.
Right, this is his second year. Yeah. So Kelly stole him from Cincinnati. But for all of you, we were talking about this off air before the show. All of you that think Denbrock is a Kelly guy, that's not true. He is a Willingham guy. He and Tyrone Willingham met up in 2001 at Stanford, and then when Notre Dame hired Willingham, Denbrock came along with him and was at Notre Dame from 2002 to 2004, and then 2005, 2008 went on to Washington as offensive line coach with Willingham. So,
and then took a trip to Indiana State for a year, and then came back to Notre Dame for a good stint, because that's when Brian Kelly came. It was introduced as the head coach of Notre Dame, and so he worked under Brian Kelly up until 2016, and that was the bad 2016. Did he get fired?
He got fired, and then Kelly brought him back because he was a wide receivers coach, tight end coach, wide receiver coach. 2014, he was an offensive coordinator, wide receiver coach. 2015 and 16, he was the assistant head coach and wide receiver coach. So,
okay. So he was promoted to the offensive coordinator
what year was
job
it they did really
in 2014. Yeah, 2016, I believe, was the really crap year that we had. And so he must have just moved on.
He
after
wasn't offensive coordinator, though.
It doesn't say anything about him. Yeah, he was the offensive coordinator for 2 years or 3 years, it looks like, and he moved on to Cincinnati after that under Luke Fickell. So and then Luke Fickell left, and then Marcus Freeman was there, correct or no? And Marcus Freeman was never head coach, so he was just a defensive coordinator, and then he became the defensive coordinator for Notre Dame. So
Yep.
yeah. So coach, these guys are all friends, man. It's just who knows? I don't know. Yeah, you had mentioned that LSU said that or some guy in a fan board or whatever said something about LSU keeping Denbrock and that he already signed a contract. So
Denbrock also it could reunite. Obviously, he's going to reunite with Freeman. He also coached together at Cincinnati with Gino Guidugli or whatever his name is.
Yeah.
And Mike Brown, who's the new wide receiver coach. So all of them are Cincinnati boys. The whole Cincinnati crew, if he decides to come. But he's an old cat.
Yeah.
And I don't know if we need the old blood. I think we need new blood. Like, you need young blood.
I mean, Gerald Parker was young. I mean, he's a young dude. So what happened with Gerald Parker? And the guy was the offensive coordinator before Notre Dame too. He was a coordinator at West Virginia. Had a decent team at West Virginia, but I don't know.
I thought he was a tight end coach.
Yeah, he was a tight end coach.
He was an offensive coordinator at
West Virginia for
coordinator at West Virginia. Okay.
For a very small time.
Well, rumor has it Notre Dame is also looking at Joe Moorhead. He is the head coach of Akron. And they're also looking at Kirby Moore. He is the current offensive coordinator at Missouri. And I'll tell you what, Missouri had a killer running back this year. Dude was fast. I think he finished in the top 10 in the Heisman voting, in fact. Little white guy. Reminds me of the old days of Missouri, kind of.
So Moorhead's been an offensive coordinator for a minute. Looks like he started coaching back in he was a graduate assistant in Pittsburgh in the late 90s, and from there went to Georgetown, to Akron, to Connecticut. All these as offensive coordinator / QB coach, receiver coach. So definitely the offensive side of the ball. Mississippi State.
That's head coach, wasn't it? Looks like it.
He's a head coach for Mississippi State?
Yeah, for 1 year, yeah, because it's just 2018 and 2019, 2 years.
Oh, wow.
So at least that's what it looks like there. I'm looking at the
same
thing.
Yeah. It says the same thing. He was a head coach for Fordham as well back in the day, or 2012. He led the Bulldogs to an 8-4 record in 2018, tied for the most wins of first-year school history at Mississippi State. And so he was fired in 2020 after going 6-7, and then he was hired at Oregon, right, for 1 year as OC, and came back and then went back to Akron, where he's currently at. I don't know. I don't know. I'm not sure. Who's the other?
Kirby Moore. He's the offensive coordinator, quarterbacks coach at Missouri. He's got a very short. This guy's young. He's only been coaching since 2014.
See, I like this young blood. Even though Gerald Parker didn't seem to work out well, I have to agree that these young guys, they have a different way of thinking, especially in today's game. I don't know. I just think that, can you go wrong by getting an older guy in here? No, but it's always nice to have a new way of thinking, especially with how offenses are working nowadays with the RPO and everything else.
And you got Freeman, who's young. You got all this young blood, and it's just fresh ideas, fresh ways of thinking about things. If you, that's why I kind of don't want Denbrock, because he's doing what Kelly used to do. Kelly used to grab all the guys he's coached with in the past from Grand Valley, and he wouldn't really dabble much outside his little, circle of coaches.
Well, here's an interesting thing. I had no idea, but he is the brother of Kellen Moore, the offensive coordinator for the Chargers. And the old quarterback from Boise State.
Right.
Yeah, he actually was I think he was a quarterback at he got drafted, but I think he was for the Lions for a bit.
Okay.
That's interesting.
And Kirby looks like he was a wide receiver at Idaho as well, or Boise State. I'm sorry, Boise State, because he started off. Yeah, they're right there. Boise State wide receiver from 2009 to 2013. Okay. Well, that'd be interesting. So he knows the offense really well. Then I would assume, working with his brother and playing that side. That's where I think they need to go. And see, he hasn't been. He's at Missouri, but they might be able to afford him. Because he doesn't have a big resume yet. Well, nobody's drooling over him.
Well, and his brother's a damn good offensive coordinator for the Chargers. I know that. Anyways, let's move on. We'll keep you updated. I'm not sure by the time we record next week, I'm sure we'll have an offensive coordinator. Getting into strength and conditioning, we spent a whole year after who was it? Matt Balis left Notre Dame. He was very, very good strength and conditioning coordinator, right? Is that what they call him?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And was very much a Notre Dame guy. I mean, he lived in the area. I think his son goes to Penn High School there in Mishawaka, and just out of the blue, just like I think a week or two before the season started, he decided that he was quitting, and no one knew why. So I'm sure there's a reason why. But I went a whole year. Maybe there was a pseudo strength and conditioning coordinator over the year, but they finally looked into hiring somebody and pulled in this gentleman from the Broncos who was a former strength and conditioning coordinator at the Denver Broncos.
Oh yeah.
Lauren Landau. I don't know much about strength and conditioning coordinators. Obviously lift some weights, get bigger, get stronger. But, there's an art to it, right? I guess there's an art to it. And Matt Balis certainly was respected. So I hope this guy is respected too. I mean, looks like his sports performance long predates his time with the Broncos. The University of Northern Colorado graduate founded Landau Performance in 2007 and has worked with thousands of athletes across the country. So he does this for a living outside of college football. He has his own business, but he does professional football, baseball, hockey, mixed martial arts, Olympic swimmers and skiers. So he does it all. So, the list of NFL players Landau has worked with in the past include All-Pro running back Christian McCaffrey. Nice. All-Pro outside linebacker Von Miller, Hall of Fame quarterback Peyton Manning, and he's also worked with former Notre Dame players Brady Quinn and Ryan Harris. So, good deal. Yeah, I like it. Anything that's going to give us the advantage, especially on the field. It starts with this guy, right?
Yeah.
So, all right. Go ahead.
Real quick, let me throw a little more real quick mix in there. I found out the Athletic has actually got a short list of offensive coordinator list. Obviously, Dan Brock's on there. They're talking about the head coach for Toledo is on there. Obviously, Joe Moorhead, we talked about him already. Those are the three big ones right off the bat. The next big things group of coordinators that they're talking about, Kirby Moore, the guy from Missouri. Okay. And the whole reason I wouldn't have brought this up except for the next one on the next big things is the Ole Miss co-offensive coordinator, Charlie Weiss Jr.
Oh.
So, okay. That would be better than Skip Holtz coming on and coming back. I think that might be cool. He knows campus. So, yeah.
I was talking to a guy about podcasts, and because he's got a pretty successful one that he started back during COVID, and he's just like, you need guests, you need, and he goes, why don't you reach out to Charlie Weiss? And I'm like, it's not a bad idea. I'm sure I could probably find him and get a hold of him. He's probably not doing shit.
Yeah, what's he doing?
I don't know. Yeah. Let's get him on the show. Have a cheeseburger. Probably won't have him on now. Let's move on. We are going to talk about the big transfer portal get that we had talked about leading up into this podcast before, but it wasn't set yet. It is the addition of ex-Duke quarterback Riley Leonard. Clutch, what do you think? What do you think about Riley Leonard? Do you think he's going to start right away? Do you think, or do you think he's going to have to battle against peanut butter and jelly?
I don't know. He's got legs on him. He's going to want to run a little bit. Not like a running quarterback. That may help him out initially.
Well, he's big. He's a big dude. He's 212, 6'4".
Yeah.
So I mean, that's a big guy coming at you.
Right. So yeah, I mean, maybe. What's his face? Lloyd Carr's grandson's on campus throwing the ball around. I heard he's been pressing people already right out of the gate.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's going to be interesting. I definitely think somebody's going to get pissed off and leave at some point, whether it's peanut butter and jelly or Minchie, one of those two, I'd assume. Carr is green enough that he can say, okay, I'll sit this first year. Hopefully he's not too cocky. So it's just going to be a good quarterback competition.
Now, my thoughts on CJ Carr. This kid is gold blue through and through. I mean, since day one, he's done nothing but talk Notre Dame, talk about recruiting other players to come to Notre Dame.
Oh, I didn't mean it. I didn't mean he would leave.
I don't think he meant that, but I'm just saying is that, like, if there was ever the intention of leaving, I don't think this kid would ever leave. I think he plans on being the number one quarterback at some point. Obviously, I don't think it's going to be this year. Maybe it'd be next year. I don't know. He's going to have some stiff competition. You know, you got Deuce McKnight coming in. They say Deuce McKnight. Is it Deuce Knight?
Deuce Knight.
This is why no one watches our podcast or listens.
We can't remember names.
Because we're so old. It's probably Knight. It is. It's Knight, not McKnight.
You got McDonald's on the brain, like the McRib.
Well, it's funny because, you know, I work in TV and I work with reporters, and a lot of people like out in the public, especially in and around from Detroit, will add a Mick to last names, and so I think now I started doing it.
What? They call you McPhillips?
Well, they won't, because I'm not on TV, but, you know, I like, you know, the reporters that I work with sometimes, they'd be like, McLangton. And I'm like, well, okay.
Oh, really?
Or McDuff. Yeah, it's strange, but whatever.
All right.
Anyways, so you know what? Now, another thing about the transfer portal that you and I and our friend Wayne were talking about was the fact that there was word, or at least rumor, that some of these receivers were asked to leave Notre Dame. And it's not the first time I've heard this whole thing about the transfer portal where coaches will say, hey, look, thank you, but we're looking to go elsewhere, and try to move them out of the program, or at least encourage them to leave. I don't know why they would encourage a guy like Rico Flores to leave. I don't think they did. I think that he wanted to go back to California, and he actually signed with UCLA this week, the last few days. I don't know. It's a good question. I don't know, but we did pick up two receivers, and I think whether it's Riley Leonard or if it's peanut butter and jelly, or I keep forgetting his first name, Minchie. Any of those guys or whatever, I think we're going to have receivers to throw to. Plus, we got some really good receivers coming in as freshmen as well. So moving on from there. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I agree with you. It's going to be a good quarterback competition next spring, and Man, I'd really like to see Carr just jump in and throw the ball around during the bowl game just to see how he looks, or even Minchie. I don't, throw him in too and just to see what's going on. I don't think that screws up any redshirting. I think they have to play 4 games.
No, it's 4 games. Yeah, so I think
throw him in.
Yeah, why not?
He breaks his ankle. He's got months to shrug it off. I don't know. I just get him in there and see if the lights make him. Elevate their game up more than it does in practice. So
didn't we? I thought we picked up another receiver, Sam Hartman's favorite target
from Wake Forest.
Yeah,
there was a guy from Florida.
At least he was
International.
talking about me. He came to visit. I know that guy, and I know the Clemson receiver.
That's it.
And there's Notre Dame successfully woos Wake receiver. Here it is. And this is Notre Dame has had a heck of a run at the transfer portal of December, and now Marcus Freeman is trying to go after Jamal Banks. He had made a visit to Notre Dame this past week. So I don't think he's announced yet, though. So he's also looking at looks like maybe the Golden Gophers of Minnesota. But they might have a third receiver, which would be great. I mean, why wouldn't you just come? Why wouldn't he come to Notre Dame when Sam Hartman was here?
Yeah, I don't know.
That would have been great.
Wow, if he comes on, he's a 4-star receiver turning upward.
So he's looking at, he's got offers from Michigan, Notre Dame, Wisconsin, and Minnesota. So
I'll tell you what, though, Notre Dame may be like, hell no, not in that. We already saw what happened because they run that weird, I forgot the name of the offense. I mean, that's the whole reason they said, maybe Hartman will be all right. And then he got here and it's just like, he just doesn't, he can throw the long ball to the corner and that's about it.
Slow mesh.
Yeah.
The
So
slow mesh.
maybe even wide receivers in that don't do very good. Maybe that Notre Dame's like, thanks, but no thanks.
All right, last note on the transfer portal. R.J. Oben, defensive edge from Duke, also came over to Notre Dame and signed with Notre Dame. Big dude. He had 17 total tackles. 17 tackles total, 7 solo, 10 assists, 5 sacks, and that's about it. He had a big year in 2021. 26 total tackles, 15 solo, 11 assists, 5 sacks, 3 forced fumbles, and an interception. Huge year in 2021. Kind of had a fall off.
Who's this?
R.J. Oben.
That's the guy from Duke?
Yeah.
Edge rusher.
Yeah. So those 2 guys coming in from Duke. So that's good. They were doing a pretty decent job at the transfer portal. I don't think I saved it, but there was a guy that got all pissed off this week on Twitter, and it was on a mention of something. And actually, no, I sent it to you, and then he deleted it. But he got in this whole thing about like tradition in Notre Dame, and if you think this is the right way that Notre Dame should be going, as far as like grabbing guys out of the portal. No, we get guys that are Notre Dame guys and guys that want to stay in the program. And I'm like, where has this guy been living? What rock are you living under? Where this tradition? See, the thing is that's a bad way to try to play college football in this day and age. You cannot play like you did 30 years ago. 40 years ago. You have to adapt with the time. It doesn't matter what kind of tradition there is. I mean, just look at the whole, independent status. I mean, there was talk about Notre Dame maybe being pushed because of these Power 5 conferences coming together and joining the Big Ten or joining the SEC, whatever conferences are going to be left over, because they have to change, they have to adapt. But as long as if they don't have to, they'll stay independent and still hold on to some traditions. And the academic traditions are, those aren't really traditions, just those are, academic requirements. So that's why, you have to do well academically to play at Notre Dame. That's just the way it is. And But I think as far as going into the transfer portal and finding guys like a Riley Leonard from Duke, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Finding a guy like Sam Hartman or whatever. I mean, this is what it is. And I don't see anything wrong with that. And go ahead.
I think he was, it was a combination of two things. The transfer, pulling people from the transfer portal, but also gently nudging those players that aren't working out of your program. And I think that's what bent him sideways. But I agree with you 100%. If you want to keep that tradition and that kind of mentality, then you might as well pack your bags and go sit on the bench with Army and Navy and, teams like that just, that aren't going to be able to change for their reasons are a little bit different, obviously, because of the military commitment. But you're just not going to, you're never going to get back to those glory days. 88 was the last national championship. And if you have another national championship, it's going to be just luck. You're not going to be competitive with the Alabamas, the LSUs, the Michigans, the Ohio States anymore, or Washington now for that matter. College football to me was always cyclical. You'd have a bunch of teams like a USC that do really good, and then they'd suck for a number of years, for a decade, and then they get new coach in, and then, like Pete Carroll, and here they come back roaring again, and they start getting good again, and now, they've kind of sucked for the last few years. I thought Notre Dame could be like that too, but it just seems like they don't pay there's a lot of stuff that there's the mentality, and this guy's kind of hitting on what he sees and what he probably saw. And we've already talked about it. The school isn't going to pay for some of these coaches the higher dollar.
Right.
And we've got to do some things that, or Notre Dame's got to do some things to get those good players to come in and play at Notre Dame. It used to be, remember back in the day, we can't get that player because he doesn't have the grades. That's
right.
not even on the table anymore for the discussion. We don't even talk about that anymore. You get these guys coming in transfer portal, and you're like, somehow he'll play.
Right. Like, they do and they don't. Every once in a while it'll come back and somebody will bring it up. But again, it has nothing to do with anything, because I think college athletes are smarter coming into college. Not every single one of them, but there's a large batch of kids that play college football. They're pretty highly intelligent young men, and they want careers. They want to be able to do things after their career in football, whether that's the NFL or not. I mean, a Notre Dame, if you can get into a Notre Dame and play football and get a degree from Notre Dame, I mean, doors just open for you automatically.
Yeah, I think back in the day, I'm trying to think back in the day, you just got these guys that were like just talented. They weren't going to, what do they call these quarterback camps and all this crap, throughout their high school career, preparing for their chance to get courted by a big name college. Right. And so you're right. I think in that preparation for college and eventually the NFL, they know they got to keep their grades up at some point. They may not be straight A's, but back in the day, the 80s and stuff like that, even some of the 90s or the 70s, you got these guys that were just, they just had it. They weren't going to any quarterback camps. In the summertime, they were running around town like the rest of us. But, man, they'd get on the field and just sling the ball around or be able to run the ball. And those are the guys that you had to watch out for that didn't have the grades. I don't think that applies now. You prepare all around your education and athletic both. So
you have a school in Florida that is designed to get you into a college football program.
Oh.
The IMG, whatever academy it is. So, I mean, yes. College football is a big, big, big moneymaker, and you got to be smart if you're in it. Notre Dame's a good program. I mean, I think Notre Dame leads the NFL, or at least is pretty close of leading the NFL with a number of total NFL drafted players throughout the course of their years or whatever. So that says something. All right, so getting on there, I think we're going to finish up. We're going to wrap up with Chip Kelly. There were some other things I wanted to talk about. Transfer portal. We did get a kicker, by the way, Mike Jeter. No relationship to the other Jeter that you had pointed out.
Derek.
Yep. And but let's get to the Chip Kelly thing. So this week, Chip Kelly is during a press conference, I'm assuming for like the Bull game that he's prepping for, had talked about what college football should look like in the future, and this is what he came up with. I'm just going to share his little feed here.
As he's preparing that. Oh, here we go.
Yep. Here we go.
What is the biggest issue that you might have right now, whether it be realignment, NIL, transfer portal, and what would your plan maybe be to try to solve it?
I think they're all a problem, and I think we need to have a conference commissioner. I think football should be separate from the other sports. Just the fact that our school is leaving to go to the Big Ten in football, our softball team should be playing Arizona in softball. Our basketball team should be playing Arizona in basketball. But because football left, and they're saying, well, how do you do that? Well, Notre Dame's independent in football, and they're in a conference and everything else. I think we should all be independent in football. And you can have a 64-team conference that's in the Power Five, and you can have a 64-team conference in the Group of Five, and we separate it, and we play each other. You can have the West Coast teams, and then every year we play 7 games against the West Coast teams, and then we play the East. So we play Syracuse, Boston College, Pitt, West Virginia. Then the next year you play against the South while you still play your 7 teams. You can play a 7-game schedule. You can play 4 against another conference, another division opponent, and you can always play against one Mountain West team every year so that we can still keep those rivalries going. Not that I've really thought about this. Not that I've a lot of spent of time on this. But I think if you went together collectively as a group and said there's 132 teams and we all share the same TV contract, so that the Mountain West doesn't have one and the Sun Belt doesn't have another and SEC has one and they have another, that we all go together. That's a lot of games, and there's a lot of people in the TV world that would go through it. You can sponsor each one. Instead of calling it Group of 5 and Power 5, you can call it Amazon, Nike, bid that out to things. You do a lot of different things. But I think if we still do the same thing and take all that money, and I would do this, and I think this needs to be done, that money now needs to be shared with the student athletes, and there needs to be revenue sharing, and the players should get paid, and you get rid of NLI, and the schools should be paying the players because the players are what the product is.
All right. So, Clutch, that was the first time you heard that. What do you think?
Yeah. I mean, he's put more thought of it through it apparently than I have. Yeah, I think that's a good thing. The one thing that stuck out to me as he was saying this, that started making my mind drift, is as soon as he said TV gets involved. Look at all the controversy when Florida State didn't make the playoffs. There was a conspiracy theory that said that the Disney CEO of Disney was pissed off. How did this go down? Something to the fact that he was pissed off about something or other, and because Disney owns ESPN. I think it was because governor. Who's the governor of Florida, and how he told Disney they couldn't be their own little town anymore and control their own stuff. So the conspiracy was he sat in on that board that when they were voting for teams, and he specifically said, do not include Florida State, keep it, and make sure you get Alabama in here because we need to keep an SEC team because that's part of ESPN and they own ESPN. Great conspiracy.
Yeah.
Totally don't think that happened at all. But my point is, get back to Chip Kelly, is you get TV involved in these big networks and stuff, and man, it's gonna be like pulling teeth to try to get any change because no one wants to give or budge on anything.
Well, I think Chip Kelly's trying to maybe make himself the commissioner of this. I don't even know what you would call it, but I think it's a great idea. The fact that you make everybody independent. It's one conference, one super conference, one Power 5. You put all the Power 5s, and you jump around and go to different regions each and every year. I mean,
meanwhile, Notre Dame goes, we've been doing that for decades.
Right. I mean, they figured it out a long time ago. And a long time ago, this is how they did things, and they've never stopped. So, but nobody wants to walk in the footsteps of Notre Dame. You know, they don't want to do that, and which is, I think it's completely stupid and ignorant. But again, how do you get rid of these super conferences? A conference like the Big Ten, the SEC, how do you get rid of these super conferences? There's so much money involved. There's so much TV revenue involved. It's just, and you know, when do the contracts run out? How do you, I don't know. It's a great idea. I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you pull it together, but it would be great to see at least try to head that direction, because right now college football is getting crazy. I mean, it's really getting crazy with all these kids jumping into transfer portals each and every year. The fact that like more than half, all these West Coast teams or whatever are coming over here to the East. You know, like a USC, UCLA. I mean, Big Ten conference. I mean, how ridiculous is that?
Right.
To see these teams playing over here, and how are they going to adapt to the schedule of getting on a plane and to fly over here each and every week to play these different teams? I mean, at some point it's going to be rough on these kids trying to manage an actual college schedule for academics, and then the flip side, have to plan the travel to go across country and play a team.
Right.
I don't know.
No, I agree. It's football, I think, can handle it. Some schools, maybe the football program couldn't even handle it because they're so small. I mean, look at Troy. Is Troy going to be able to fly all over the United States to play all these teams? I don't know.
A lot of teams too are just running out of money, man. And you know, they're not getting the big contracts. I mean, how about these Pac-10 teams that are still sitting in the Pac-10? You know, where do they go? What do they do? Are they going to join the Mountain West? Who knows? It's going to get crazy, and it's going to get even crazier in college football. However, the one thing that we do know for certain is that Notre Dame plays Oregon State in about 2.5 weeks? Is that right? 2.5 weeks. So get ready, because man, it's been a long time since I watched some college football, and that'll be the last game for quite some time. Clutch, thanks again. I appreciate you as always. And go Irish.
Go Irish. Come on, basketball team.
Oh, that's another thing, too. Is this basketball team going to get to 10 wins?
No, baby, they're not.
I don't know, man. They should have beat that Georgetown game was a winnable game. They should have won that game.
Yeah, no, I agree. I just don't think they're glued up. They can't play with each other, and I don't know how. I mean, the best player on that team is Burton. I mean, I like his play. He's a freshman, though. I mean, he needs another year to kind of.
They have a lot of freshmen, but does it get you excited that they have a lot of talent? Right now, they have a lot of talent, a lot of young talent, but they have a lot of talent. Does it excite you to see Notre Dame, you know, playing with a different style, different coach? I mean, it's not the Mike Bray anymore. It's Coach Shrewsbury, and I think that these players are. They're going to get better. I think we know that. They're going to get better. They're going to stick around for a while. I don't know. I like this team right now. I just, it does suck that they're growing.
I think that I was watching them play against that Georgetown game, and they remind me of an early Mike Bray team. They don't remind me of the last few years. They still stuff the ball on a fast break, and they're all alone. You don't hammer it down and pump up the team like a big dunk. There's not enough. There's no personality on the team. You know what I mean? You don't have somebody that's, not that you need personality on a basketball team, but it just feels like they're out there just kind of doing their thing, and I don't know. It excites me that they're new players and new coach, but the play has been kind of like, it just doesn't look any different than any other Notre Dame basketball team I've seen in the last 10 or 15 years or whatever with Bray. It looks more like an early couple of years with Bray when he had Troy Murphy? No, that wasn't Bray, was it?
No, well, it was originally no, it wasn't. I mean,
McLeod.
Yes.
No, not McLeod. It was.
It was McLeod. Well, the other guy, what's his name? That coached North Carolina afterwards.
Yeah, it was
him.
That
was only 1 year. He was only at Notre Dame for a year.
I don't remember.
McLeod. I think McLeod recruited. But the thing is that there hasn't been a lot of like young talent, Notre Dame talent, that you knew right from the get-go, wow, this kid's going to be a special kid. Burton looks like it. Is it Tay Davis? Is he a freshman? See, this is another thing too, is that like I got to study this this lineup, because I mean, some of these guys are, you look at him and you're like, God, he looks familiar. It looks like somebody that had played for Notre Dame like 5 years ago, but he's a freshman. Burton obviously is their go-to guy right now. Very skilled guard, and they're going to get better. Trust me. They're getting to 10 wins. Trust me, Clutch. They're getting to 10 wins, and I think they're going to even get more than 10 wins.
They're going to get one. They're going to get one more before
maybe 12
ACC play kicks in.
You almost said the Big East.
And then you got 5 to sprinkle in the rest of the season anywhere you want, and that'll get them to 10. I said 10 wins, so they will get to 10. They will not get to 11.
All right, I think they're going to get to 11. We'll keep talking about it, and hopefully Notre Dame gets better throughout the season here, especially in the ACC. This is where the competition is going to get a lot stiffer. You're going to start playing North Carolina and Duke, and it's going to get tough. Anyways, that's going to do it for this edition of Bro-ish. Two brothers talking Notre Dame football. We'll see you next week. Go Irish.
I can feel the blood creeping up from the heathens. Got will, got fight, got pride, got reason. If they wanna go eat, then you know I'm gon' feed them. If you're coming for me, hope you're ready for it.